Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, the Manga Man here, and today we're talking about Black Clover chapter 288. The scanlation essentially released within the last hour or so, I do want to get this out there. I did want to do a video on World Trigger as I haven't done one for a while, but the author is on a break due to health reasons, and as always when author takes a break or when the author of World Trigger takes a break or Sue takes a break, I'm all for it, and then when they're ready to come back. It just sometimes you get out of a bit of a routine, so hopefully I can do a catch-up video when it comes out and we'll be fine. But without further ado, let's get into this review. So, the chapter seemed pretty short, which means unfortunately the video is going to be short. I'd like to keep my videos within 10 minutes, but this is probably going to be shorter than that, unless I ramble. But, it's important to bearing in mind, as long as the story or the narrative is moving forward and we are giving breadcrumbs or threads that we can go down in future storylines as they develop, I don't mind. It's the same thing with solo leveling. I really don't mind as long as the story moves on. And that's what you're getting in this chapter. So what I want to do is kind of round off a few things that happen in this chapter and really talk about the ending, which is probably going to be the most important part. So, first thing, the chapter starts off with half a face, or it's in essentially a panel of Finral, who's probably transported them there, and he basically says that he was in a rush, and they seem to be outside the castle now. What this ultimately means is they're that close to the castle, they'll be able to enter the fray very quickly, and they'll be arriving very soon. Essentially all of Black Balls. The next thing to bear in mind is that Grimedolo is happy to see Nacht, so they have a very symbiotic relationship. They rely on each other, and he obviously worried something was going to happen to them should Nacht have died. So that's important because that relationship kind of tells you that not all demons are bad, and obviously some of the weaker demons, they essentially tend to be nicer than the stronger demons who are more arrogant and have more power to flex with. So that's another thing to bear in mind. Then there's a bit where essentially Nacht mentions that all the cards are in play now, and there's like a little interaction between Asta and Nacht, and Asta's kind of thanking Nacht for helping him develop this power, and that he wants him to be alive to witness this power. At the same time, he mentions that he has 5 minutes only for doing this, and 1 minute has gone by, so he will be rushing this next fight against Lilith and Namaah. And at this point, Nacht also notices and sees a resemblance between him and his brother who he saw as this ultimate light, this ultimate good guy. Now that he sees that in Asta, he sees the goodness within Asta, and I like that's there, because ultimately he will more likely be involved with the Black Balls, being that there's a new shining light that will remind him of his brother. So this is possibly also something that Yami saw, and possibly one of the reasons why he brought him in that was never really explained in the past. So it kind of deepens the relationship and kind of deepens the layers to these characters that we wouldn't have got should these events have not happened. So I like the kind of character building, the layer building throughout this. Then let's just get to the fight. Let's cut everything else out. Let's get straight to the fight. It starts off with essentially, I believe it's Lilith who gets her arm chopped off. One of the demons, either way. And she says that this sensation I haven't had in hundreds of years of being in the underworld. So ultimately, being a higher ranking or the highest ranking type of demon has given her such power or disparity against the other demons that she hasn't really felt pain. So this might be a new or something that she hasn't felt in a while, because I'd imagine, as strong as she is, or even Namaah, they probably don't necessarily compare to somebody like Lucifero, who's at the bottom of the tree. So I'd imagine it's probably something they haven't had in a while. That being said, the fight starts, and they, much like everything else, are toying with Asta because of the enhanced speed and physical stat differences, and that seems to be going on. We get these wonderful panels where everything is going everywhere. But like everything else, Asta is the ultimate hard counter, ultimate checkmate to everybody, and it shows, because Asta pulls out the third sword, which is, I believe, the Demon Destroyer. I think that's what he calls it. So the Demon Destroyer is the third sword that he got in the Elf arc, which I guess was pulled out by licked. We say licked, but it was obviously Patoli. And he pulled out the third sword. To be fair, guys, I'm not sure which who pulls it out, but one of them pulls it out, and it's like the third sword, which has the ability to cut through spells, subdue reincarnations, and a lot of quite powerful anti-spell techniques here. And essentially, it has an AOE effect that stops them in their tracks, and there's a lot of shading in the legs and one of the arms, and it kind of just paralyzes them. And we see that Asta pulls out his Demon Slayer and cuts what I believe is Namaah in half, and that's where the chapter ends. So a pretty short chapter, but an explosive ending that really sets things up next week. As always, we will see what happens next week, so I'll see you next time. Peace.